Hi, I decided to pick my topic as in my project to be on bedside shift report and about implementing the change on my unit and understanding the importance. I picked this topic because it was something that I noticed should be getting done on my unit, and it was not getting done. So I figured I would come up with a way so I could implement it and help with our compliance, which goes into why I picked this topic. I picked it because I want to provide quality improvement in patient care and outcomes. I want to raise patient satisfaction. I want to provide a safe, patient-centered care of the highest quality. I wanted to evaluate and improve the implementation process and increase staff compliance. I wanted to start by talking about the feedback that I got from patients that showed that the improvement was needed, which I feel like is pretty relevant because not only is it something that from a staff standpoint needs to happen, but it's also something from a patient standpoint that needs to happen. And this was very evident because our patient satisfaction scores are associated with the nurse sensitive indicator related to communication, which below the goal mark, and this was below the goal mark for the past few surveys, which were our HCAP surveys. And our discharge surveys that were coming back showed communication with nurses during the hospital stay needed improvement, and it was not meeting its goal mark. So this was evidence that the patients also felt like there was something lacking with our communication. And why do we need this change? I think understanding why bedside report is so important will help you understand why it needs to be completed and why we need to be compliant. Healthcare organizations have a responsibility to make sure that the care provided to the patients we serve is current and research-based. Research proves that having patient-centered care and keeping patients informed creates better outcomes. Evidence-based practice tells us that an informed patient is a happy participant in their care. If the patient feels safe and they're happy with the unit and they're happy with the nurses, then in return they're going to be more open and they're going to participate in their care. If you have patients that are stressing less, they're going to equal a faster recovery. A faster recovery means a decreased hospital stay, which means it gets them home and back to their life at a faster pace. Bedside report puts patients in the center of the information. It prevents errors and miscommunication, making sure everyone is on the same page and that the plan of care is discussed. Actions to improve. This slide is basically saying I looked at why it wasn't being done and how could I improve it and what actions could I take to make staff more accepting of the change. So I included all staff and I openly listened to suggestions on how to improve our compliance. We are a small unit, but I met with our 25 nurses and I talked to them about why they felt like it was not getting done and it was not being received well. The one consistent topic I heard was from the nurses is that I was not included in the planning and was just told this is what you need to do. So I realized that I needed to bring that topic to our UBC. And at our UBC, we developed an improvement strategy. And in that improvement strategy, I wanted to talk about the action plan. So in the action plan, we defined what patients could expect from us. And then I rounded on over 50 patients, asking them what they would expect or want in bedside report. Guidelines were created for nurses. They were posted on the unit. They were shared via email. They were shared in Lean Huddle. They were shared at UBC meetings. And we all decided on a new rollout date, which gave staff a couple weeks, and it allowed them time to process and to give us feedback on what they thought about the change. Out of the 60 patients that were surveyed on a bedside report was being done, our compliance was at 50%. And this allowed me to give staff numbers in real time and to let them gauge where the improvement was needed and why it was needed. And I'm also showing staff that any report can be tailored to the patient and the families. Even though I'm giving you these guidelines, you still can tailor it to what you feel like the patient needs. Working in a high-risk OB unit, sometimes the mother is not available, but the father is there of the baby or the husband. So, talking to him about what's going on with the baby and giving him reporting, getting him included is also okay. And just doing the basic, patient to nurse is also fine. The reporting guidelines that we talked about in UBC and came up with, as we just provided basic guidelines with steps to help staff. The bedside report, is more than just going into a room and talking in front of a patient. You need to kind of do the following things when you're going into the room. You need to position yourself at the head of the bed or as near to the patient as possible, and you need to make sure you speak clearly and use basic terms. Don't use too many medical terms that they're not going to understand, because it's like you're not even talking to them if they have no idea what you're talking about. You need to introduce the oncoming nurse, so when you come in the room, don't just start talking. Make sure that you tell them who you are. State the reason for the admission. Why is the patient here? What is their plan of care? Discuss any significant events, medications that are due, the plan for the night, tests or labs that have been ordered and the results from those. That all of the lines, the drains, the pumps, any urinary catheters, epidural catheters, those all have been assessed with the oncoming nurse. Involve the patient. It's pretty basic, and ask, is there anything else that you would like to add? Because some of the things that we may think are concerning may not be as concerning to the patient. They just may want to know what time breakfast is going to be coming, and something as basic as that, they could stress about something as simple as food, which we would not worry about. So just making sure we're asking them, is there anything else they would like to add? Ask them if they have any questions, and just ask if they need anything before you leave. And let the patient know you will be back soon, and inform them of the ASCOM phone number you have. This is something that we really are making sure that staff are doing. We're making sure that they're writing their name and their portable phone number on the whiteboard and letting the patient know you can contact me directly if you need something, instead of using your call bell, and that way I can answer your needs or your questions immediately if you need them. And include any things that the patient may like. So in the report, just letting the oncoming nurse know that they like room temperature water when they're taking meds, or they like apple juice with every meal, so you know to bring that in when you're giving them their meds, and it saves you a step, and then it also makes the patient feel like you're really paying attention to the small details. Guidelines for information what should be done out of the room report. So not everything needs to be shared in the room with the patient, or certain family members may be there that don't need to know what's going on. Discuss any undone tasks. Did you not get to certain things during the day because you were too busy? Discuss that outside of the room. Any psychosocial issues or family dynamic issues that are going on need to be discussed outside of the room, not in front of the patient. Unless they are there for those psychosocial or psychiatric issues, then you can discuss those, but otherwise discuss that stuff outside of the room. Any issues that you may have encountered with other departments or teams during your shift. If, they've been in for a chest x-ray, but they're backed up and they haven't gotten to it, or the psychiatrist didn't come see them for the day, or whatever it may be, just discuss that stuff outside of the room, because it's not really relevant for the patient to know that right then. And any test results that the MD may still need to share or discuss with the patient is something that you don't want to be the first person to tell the patient that they're HIV positive or that they have some other STD. That's something that the doctor needs to share with the patient, because the patient's going to have a lot of questions, and that should come from them. So sharing that with the nurse is very important, but just not in front of the patient unless the patient is aware. And I think what it comes down to is you need to learn, practice, and improve. So I had to learn where the need was to be re-educated. We needed to practice the re-education, and then I needed to reevaluate an improvement. So this is kind of the change cycle that you're using. So from June 1st to June 20th, I surveyed the same number of patients, which is 60, with a simple tool just asking them, did the new nurse introduce themselves during change of shift report? Were you asked if you had any special needs, concerns, or questions during change of shift report? And so I kept up with these, and then our compliance went from 50% to 80% just in this short amount of time. So that just gave me numbers that I could show staff where they're able to gauge that their hard work is paying off. I was also able to share with staff the patient feedback. I was able to round on patients and ask them how it was going. And when I rounded on them, I was able to share in Lean Huddle and through emails, direct quotes from the patients. And they stated that they felt more involved, that it helped to meet my new nurse and know she was aware of my plan. I didn't have to listen to my beeping IV for 20 minutes during shift change. I didn't have that feeling that there was no one watching me during my busy shift change. So these were actually direct quotes from patients, which help nurses understand that they are aware of their hard work and they do appreciate it. Of course, with any change, I also face some challenges in getting staff to be compliant with bedside report. And those challenges, which are going to be ongoing and things that I will need to address on a constant basis that have not all been addressed in this short amount of time, is a nurse's unwillingness to change habits and practices. There are some nurses on every unit that are just practicing the same way for 10 or 15 years, and to get them to show a different way to practice is hard. So getting those nurses to be more open is a challenge. I have nurses that are really uncomfortable waking up the patients. They don't want to bother them. Nurses that felt like it takes too much time, so trying to tailor the report to make it shorter for them but still get all the information in is important. And some nurses that just felt it was difficult to stay in line with HIPAA. So with those challenges, I learned some lessons. I learned that I can't just throw it out there. Staff need to be included in the change, and they need to be better. Including them will make them be better open to it. And also just understanding that culture change takes time. It requires education, encouragement, leading by example, and consistently holding staff accountable. I'll end with the quote that says, "Medicine is learned by the bedside and not in the classroom. Let not your conceptions of disease come from words heard in the lecture room or read from the book. See and then reason and compare and control, but see first." So it's just showing that the eyes and seeing can help you learn so much about a patient and about what you're doing. And the last page is our reference, which is 5 different references. Thank you so much.